G'day folks, my name is Brendan. You may remember last time we were playing with the new 2860 turbocharger. Well, today we're putting it on the car. G'day folks and welcome to Turbo Build. So last time we assembled this turbo, put the manifold and downpipe all together onto it. Today we need to bolt it into the car and start working on plumbing it all in. So come along, we'll bolt this thing up. So you can see now we've got the turbo and the manifold all in place, and just bolted up a couple of bolts front and rear just to sort of hold it steady and hold it in its final position. But obviously that's not the, we're gonna have to bolt it up properly later. But I want to work on plumbing and things before we're going to worry about that. So I've got my old hoses and the like. This is the feed line from the back of the head into the turbocharger, and these are the two coolant lines that run back through the cooling system for the coolant. I haven't got a drain line for the oil yet, so we're gonna have to make a new one. The old one isn't gonna work, and that'll need to go out from the bottom of the turbo. I've got this AN flange that'll bolt up, and then it'll have to go back down into the barbed fitting down the bottom there. So, time to get to work doing that. Now my feed line for the turbo comes out of the back of the head, just here, that fitting, and will easily go straight into the top here. So that's nice and easy. This will need to rotate perhaps more like that. Generally, you want the feed mostly straight down and your two cooling lines mostly perpendicular to that. So, time to do some plumbing. Well, that's not going to work now, is it? The line installed at the back of the head, it's just too short to be able to reach this fitting. I'm going to have to find a better way to do that, unfortunately, whether it comes out and around this way, or I don't know, somehow we can get it to come in and curve down. We'll have to have a look. Well, this won't fit. How about the cooling lines? This old Velcro type heat shielding stuff's gone pretty crap and brittle, so let's try and get it off. Might be worth replacing this hose. This upper section looks alright, but the hose, well, it might be okay, but it's a bit questionable. So luckily the turbo is still loose and I can rotate it back and forth just a little bit, because it was pretty tight to get back here. And get this this back bolt done up, and now it's still not fully tight, but they're in. So that's the two coolant lines happy. I'll be able to trim these hoses down here if need be. That one needs to go up to this fitting just here. Got this bit of hose temporarily in place just to keep the coolant sort of from dripping everywhere, so that it doesn't have to fully drain the radiator. So we've got to get this fella up to there, which looks like the line is reasonable. It's not too bad. It shouldn't need to be adjusted too much, maybe just trim short. This lower one looks like it's okay, so the one from here, goes down. It's this line there. It goes down here and into the radiator where this line is going into at the moment. So again, I think it's long enough. I'll have to get underneath the car and have a double check, but I can tighten these up more or less in place. I think I'm pretty happy with where they are. Looks like we're gonna have to go to the shop though for that upper oil hose from the back of the head into the top of the turbo. Well, I'm back from the shop with a slightly longer hose, and these things are quite a bit more expensive than I remember. Over $100 for that, which is getting pricey, but I guess it's pretty important, so might as well do it properly. Time to see if this longer one will fit properly. It all fits reasonably okay. It's not the neatest result, but it'll work. Now we know that line's going to work. However, one thing that isn't going to work is this catch can is too close to the dump pipe now. So we're going to have to pull this out and either modify it or relocate it slightly or something to make it fit, because it's not going to fit where it is at the moment. So first things first is to take this out. Alright, I've unbolted it and out she comes. Now I marked on here sort of roughly where I possibly need to cut this if I want to keep it where it lives. You can see it's just that bottom corner is just in the way, unfortunately. Now I haven't opened this since we've had it running, so it's done a couple of track days. Let's see. Oh, it's still empty. Well, it's a catch can that's not catching much, so I guess that's kind of good. The engine's not pumping any oil out the breather hoses. So you can see here is kind of the area that we were working with, where the catch can used to live, and the dump, and just the flange, the V-band flange on it was just too close to where the catch can lived. It's a nice spot for the catch can, perfectly positioned. I'd like to continue using that spot if I can, but I don't know. Maybe I'll have to notch that bottom corner out of the can to make it fit. It's a shame. Yeah, what a pity. Let me do some thinking. Aha! I've got an idea. Couple of new holes here. Let's see. How she fits up. Okie dokie. Done. We've now got a much nicer gap here, which purely lifting the can up a few mil gave us heaps more room. I am actually worried about this front left brake line, which is really close to the dump. I don't know how that's supposed to fit around the dump. So, we're now under the engine. I thought I'd start by talking to you about what's been going on and where things are going from this perspective. So, firstly, we've got the two coolant lines. Let me try and focus those. The two coolant lines here, which are the two braided stainless lines, these two. They come stainless braided to this point, then there's two barbed fittings here. One of these lines now comes here to the radiator. If I fix your focus there. So I've got this line temporarily affixed just to keep the coolant flow bypassed from the turbocharger. So what we'll need to do is disconnect this one, install this one, and you can see length is pretty much perfect, so that runs back up to the turbo. The other line from the turbo here. Let me play with focus again. So this line here loops around and runs up to the coolant neck. And now I can do some zooming here. Zoom, and you can see there the again the bypass line, and then my new line, and again lengths are about perfect. So that means we've got our coolant lines ready to go. What we need to do now is the oil drain, and so that, let me try and get you in a position where we can see, is the one right in the middle up there. So we've got a hole in the bottom of the turbo. We need to drain that down to the barb fitting in the sump right there. And so I've got a fitting to go into the turbo, and we need to run some hose down to the barb. Time to do that. Now, of course, I went and made this difficult for myself by installing the 2 bolts that hold the drain flange in place already in the turbo. So now I need to try and get them out and install that fitting. There's the first, and the second is okay. They're coming. It's a bit hard with the coolant lines either side of this fitting already in place. Makes things just a little bit tricky. Alright, that's coming, and I dropped it. So I've got this new fitting with the bolts and the gasket. So that all needs to go together and go up underneath the turbo. This is going to be a little tricky to get to. The barb fitting is now tightened up, and it took a fair bit of fiddling around to get the fittings, or should I say the bolts, done up. And the reason for that was the 2 coolant hoses were kind of in the way, which made it hard to get any spanner or socket onto the 2 bolts. So I took the 2 coolant lines off. They're sitting here now. Took the 2 coolant lines off, and I was able to get a short 12mm spanner in under there. We now need to hook that barb fitting up to the barb in the sump down the bottom there. So I've got some of my trusty blue oil hose that'll fit perfectly between those 2. We'll just run that now. So I've got this nice blue hose. I used the same stuff on the oil cooler. It's pretty good quality. Now I've lubed up the hose end with some engine oil. That should hopefully make things a little easier to get on this fitting, although it's definitely not easy. And then with that on, we can gauge our distance here and cut the hose sort of about there. So, got that mark. This is the type of hose that's pretty much, once it's on, it doesn't come off. It's push lock, as they say, is very much push lock. Once it's on, the barbs hold it sturdy, and it's nigh on impossible to get it apart again. You basically have to cut the hose away. Come on, buddy. I think this blade's blunt. Probably should have gotten a fresh one. There we go. Shoo. So that end will go on like so, and the job done. Obviously it does need a hose clamp. Pulled the fitting off the turbo, made sure I could get the hose seated properly all the way up, and we can now throw this thing back on. Put a hose clamp up here, although it's probably not needed. Put a hose clamp down here, although that probably will be needed because this barb is a bit more aggressive than the one on the sump. And that's hosing done. The barb fitting all neatened up now with a hose clamp down to the sump, also with a hose clamp. And that is the hose work all done. Still obviously going to reinstall the coolant lines, but at least we know they all fit up and everything's mounted and the lengths are all hunky-dory. Well, that's it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching. We've got the turbo mostly plumbed in and bolted up reasonably nicely. We need to now get to work on finishing up the exhaust and mating it to the rest of the existing 3-inch system. As always, you can find us at BEAVIS Motorsport on Facebook, Instagram, our website, all of that great stuff. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to hit the subscribe button because that changes your life just as much as it changes some dorky little dude in Melbourne, Australia's life. Maybe not little. Anyway, you get the gist. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.